wanting to watch you watch me. Am I dreaming when I feel the way you want me?
Hello everyone, welcome back to the L.A.M.E Book Club podcast. My name is Melissa.
I'm Ellie.
And today, we're very excited. I don't know if you guys noticed, our intro song was a little bit different than what it normally is. And that's because we have the Bookish Songs Collective here with us. They wrote, produced, did everything with this song. They do a lot of songs for a lot of different books. We'll let them explain a little bit more about what they do, and specifically the song that you heard, which was written for and inspired by Powerless, which we will be talking about today. So with that being said, we'd like to welcome Georgia and Tessa from the Bookish Songs Collective.
Hi.
Hey.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, of course.
We're excited. So to give our audience just a little bit of background about the Bookish Songs Collective, what do you guys do? How did this start? What does it look like on your end? Give us the tea. Give us all the details.
So we actually have a very cute background story. We started as a group chat on Instagram, nothing more.
That is
so it was
awesome.
actually Tessa, I think, who brought everyone together, just like all the people she knew who wrote songs inspired by books. And they made this group chat, and I wasn't in it at first, and I joined later because I found them through Victoria Carble. And yeah, from there we just started to like create an album for the Grishaverse, because well, it's like, well, we're 8 people. We can just put out an album, which usually takes ages. So we put out that album without like any proper marketing or preparation or a proper release plan, and it did really well, so we just kept going.
That's
and
awesome.
Yeah, so now we just write songs inspired by the books that we love, and our mission is to create soundtracks for mostly fantasy books but also some romance books. And our like goal would ultimately be to create official soundtracks for books, because we believe that books deserve soundtracks just like movies have, because there's so much epicness and imagery, and so we're very passionate about our music.
I love that.
And we hope you like the intro.
I have to give Victoria a little more credit because she knows most of the people. At the time, I knew Victoria and Kendra, and I tagged them in an Instagram story. And I was like, what is this? And Victoria was like, hold my beer. And she put together the whole group chat. And then Georgia, marketing queen that she is, found us later and was like, hey,
That's
can
amazing.
I join you?
And
now
honestly, that's like
we don't know what we would
a
do
meet
without her.
cute. Real, like it really is, like that's like the best. That is the cutest story ever. I love that it happened. No, I don't want to say on a whim, but kind of. I mean, like it was
kind
just
of.
Like, it was but then, like now it's turned into this incredible thing. Back
it was
to
a whim,
Georgia. What you said about how you think books deserve soundtracks, I could not agree more.
Thank you.
The only thing more inspirational than a book, honestly, I feel like is music. Like, and we have we did last month in June a series where we interviewed indie authors, and like most of them, when we asked what was your inspiration, a lot of them said music. Like a lot of them will listen to music and listen to epic soundtracks of instrumentals while they're writing to help them like mentally get into the headspace of the worlds that they're creating and the characters that they're developing. And like, so if they're using these songs as inspiration to write the books, like I say more? Like that proves that there's so much behind music, and there's so much you can capture it in a song, just like you can in words on a page.
Yeah, if you think about it, it's actually quite beautiful, because you have this cycle of inspiration and creativeness, because like if an author gets inspired by music, writes their book, and then we come along and we write songs inspired by that book.
Exactly.
And like the cycle just kind of closed itself, and it's actually pretty beautiful in my opinion.
It really is. I love that.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, music just enhances everything, you know? There's a reason music gets put into movies and like series and why it's placed where it's placed. So why not enhance books with that too?
Tessa, can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to be on the Powerless project?
Absolutely. So Powerless had been on my TBR for a really long time. And then Kendra Dantes popped, I think it was her, or maybe it was Elise. I don't know. It was either Kendra or Elise Moyer. Okay. It was Elise. Credit where credit is due. She popped into the chat and was like, hey, does anyone want to write a song about Powerless? And I think Kendra hopped on and I was like, I absolutely do. But I hadn't started the book yet. So
I just know I'm gonna want to.
Yep. So I don't think I even had the book yet. So I convinced my boyfriend to buy me the book because there was a special edition. And I was like, you owe me. He actually said he would get it for me for Christmas, and then he couldn't find it. So I was like, buy it for me, please. Yeah. So he got it for me. I started reading. I'm a slow reader. I didn't think I was going to get it done in time. But what I do when I know I'm going to be writing a song about a book is I write down everything that I think could be a good lyric. Anything that's going to be remotely inspirational. So I have there's a note on my phone with a bunch of out of context quotes. There's literally just some of them are just a word or two, and I have to go back and look and see what the full quote was. But my song is Fool for You, and so that was inspired by, okay, wait, I'm gonna get this right. I think the quote is, Peyton asks Kai, what else are you when you're around me? And he says, a fool. Only when you're around me, only for you. So that's I love men being pathetic. So
we all do.
So that was a lot of the inspiration around it, and as well the whole thing where they're going back and forth about him, he's never going to be a gentleman, and then he is a gentleman only for her.
Yes.
So that was the first thing that I came up with in the chorus was I could get used to oh my god, I'm forgetting my own lyric. What is it? I could get used to chivalry is what I said, because being a gentleman is a little wordy.
Yes.
So yeah,
I love it.
Just me at the keyboard in my dorm room with my list of Powerless quotes, putting together a song.
I love that. And boy, is there a list for you to work with in this book. My god. It's actually funny. The episode that we're going to be jumping into today is we're talking about it, but it's also going to be different perspectives. I'm obsessed crazy about this book, and Ellie enjoyed it, but not quite as obsessed as I am. And so we're going to be kind of talking why we feel like that. But I'm glad that for now she's the minority, and we are
I guess
by people that love it, because I get to be like, haha, Ellie, I told you.
Georgia, have you read it?
No, I still haven't. I know. I really wanted to, and I would have hopped onto the project had I had more time.
Yeah.
But there's so many projects going on right now. Honestly, you don't believe how much music we have coming out in the next month. So it's strap in, because it's gonna be amazing, but it's also very full schedule, and managing everything is just a lot of work right now. I didn't get to read it yet, but I really want to. That. And I think I will like it, so if that counts for anything.
This might be the most prolific we've ever been, because we had a song come out, or not a song, we had a whole EP of queer character inspired songs come out in June 7th. 1 month later, we got Danger and Desire, the Powerless single, on July 5th. 1 month later, this week, we will be releasing Assisting the Villain, inspired by Assistant to the Villain.
Yeah, you guys are powering through. There's nothing powerless about your guys's. Yeah. nothing powerless about what you guys are doing.
Where can our listeners find the full version of the Powerless song as well as any other music you guys have come out with?
So we are on every streaming platform. So whatever you use, we got it. But yes, also Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Amazon, whatever you guys prefer. There's also a YouTube channel if you don't use streaming. And you can find the Powerless songs on our single Danger and Desire by Bookish Songs Collective. And you can also find us on socials under Bookish_songs on Instagram and TikTok and everything else too, I think.
You know what? Let's just look up Bookish songs, and I think you guys will probably be one of the top ones.
Come up.
Yes.
If we don't, there's a problem.
Yeah, that's true. If you don't let us know, we can let them know, and we'll figure it out. But awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I love what you do. I'm grateful for the time that you gave us this morning to sit down and talk with us. And to our listeners, you guys will be hearing the songs more because we are going to continue to add it to our intros. We're going to do a couple more episodes about this, the books in the series so far. So this is not the last time that you will get to hear the song in our intro. But again, yeah, just thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you being on here. Everyone go follow, listen to their stuff. It's all really beautiful. It's really inspired, and it's been very fun for us to sit down and listen to it.
Thank you so much for having us. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, of course.
I'm so excited to be on a podcast. This is my first podcast, and it's a lifelong dream. So.
Yay! We'll have to have you guys back. Well, next time
gladly.
we're depending on series and songs you guys have written, we'll definitely collab again.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, chances are we always got something. So
I mean, at this rate, you're coming out with albums or songs every month, so odds are you'll have songs written. Amazing. Well, thank you guys so much again, and stay tuned for our Powerless episode. Thank you guys again for being here. I hope you enjoyed that little snippet with the Bookish Songs Collective that we just had. It was really fun to meet and talk with them, and I hope you also enjoyed the song at our intro. But like we mentioned, this episode, we will be talking about Powerless. It's going to be a little bit different than our normal episodes, though, and I'm very excited. We have this one set up as like a court case, so we've actually titled it Ellie v. Melissa, the Powerless trilogy.
I'm so excited.
We're going to be doing the next 3 episodes are us. We have very different stances on all 3 books.
Yes.
And we will be having court with you all, talking about why I am, if you've listened to any of our last handful of episodes, very pro these books, and why Ellie is against them.
Yeah.
And by the end of this, you all will see live how I convinced her that these are amazing.
Okay. By the end of this, you all get to be the judge. You get to decide, I do like it, or you convinced me against. Yeah, judge and jury. Congrats, it's you. You signed up. But before we do all that, there will be spoilers for Powerless. This is not a book club episode. This is a, we presume you've read it, let's get into it situation. Shopping, the Bean Workshop. If you like bookish merch, we have 10% off at the Bean Workshop. Use code L.A.M.E Book Club Pod, all caps. Or you can just go to our Instagram. There is a link in our bio. It'll already apply your code. Good to go. Cutest stuff ever. You can thank us later. Join us Wednesday for Tandem Fandom, chapters 20 through 29 with Empire of Storms and 18 through 24 with Tower of Dawn. It's a very good time. You won't regret it.
And we're back on Empire of Storms heavy episode, so it'll be a good one.
Yes. And with that, let's get started. So today we have a hot debate. We're discussing Powerless, like we said, Melissa v. Ellie. So we're going to structure this like a mini court case. And once again, guess who gets to be the judge? You, judge and jury. However,
except Ellie has a gavel / dog toy with her.
I'm getting there. Because I tend to be, and Melissa is going to fight me on this, but that's literally insane. I tend to be the most level-headed. I get the gavel, and if one of us is out of line, you're going to hear it. So You ready to swear in?
I should order one on Amazon before our next episode so that I have my own.
Now you have time.
I'm gonna get like one of those squeaky gavels though.
Yeah.
the ones that like yeah.
Okay.
Anyways,
right hand up.
Everyone before we get into this, you can all see how skewed this is going to be if Ellie clearly thinks that she's more level-headed than I am. I am not saying that I am. For the record, I'm just stating she's not as level-headed as she may seem. Just because one is a little bit more quiet does not mean that they are level in the head, and that's...
I feel like this argument alone is already...
I'm just really getting into the...
Swear in!
Before we swear in, let me explain the structure of this. So we are going to start with our opening statements. Reasons for why this changed my life versus reasons why Ellie's life was completely unfazed and unaffected by these books. From there, we have witnesses, everyone. We have reviews, posts on Reddit, other people that feel the same as us that brought good points to the validity of why we feel the way that we do. And just as in any legal court case, there will be a time for cross-examination for the other person to discredit and or pick apart their thoughts on the witnesses that the other person brought to the stands. And then we will have our closing arguments / closing statements on why we are right. And from there, you guys will get to tell us who you think won this court case. So with that being said, I will swear in. Ellie, are you ready to swear me in?
I am. Do you promise? Put up your right hand. Is it up?
This is my right hand.
Sorry. Okay. Do you
swear
promise
to tell the truth?
Not
the
even.
whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Nice?
So help me God.
Do you promise to be nice, understanding, and even-tempered to a reasonable extent? So help me God.
I agree.
Okay.
Ellie, do you promise to be nice? What was it?
Understanding,
and
even
the other thing you said to a degree.
I do.
So help me God.
I so do. I so swear. Okay.
And also, I'm adding something in for yours. You also solemnly swear not to misuse the gavel.
I so don't. Okay. Opening statement. Who wants to go first?
Why don't you do it?
Okay. Here we go. I don't hate Powerless. However, I don't like Powerless.
Okay.
I felt like I was rereading several books, but in a less exciting fashion. Now, I'm going to give credit where credit's due. I believe that this was, what's her name? Lauren
Roberts.
Lauren Roberts' first book ever. And she's 20 years old. So incredible accomplishment nonetheless. And we just can't beat around that. That's awesome. However, I felt like I was reading The Hunger Games and The Red Queen mixed together in just kind of like a less exciting fashion. The tropes that were used were popular and incredibly overdone, and I just felt like this was a book of tropes more than a book of anything else. Kai, to me, was whatever. I know it's going to break your heart.
Ellie, watch your tongue!
Kit was whatever. It gave Vampire Diaries feuding for the same girl. The slow burn was weird to me. Like, the buildup was insane, but then nothing really happened. Like, it was just a constant buildup to the point where I got tired. I also felt like the hate was not palpable enough from Peyton. She justified her choices quickly and not in like a morally gray perspective, but just in a compromising to move the story forward perspective. Everyone said plot twist. What plot twist? This whole book was incredibly predictable to me. Personally, her banter with Kai was obnoxious to me, especially with the knife. Are you kidding me? How many times can you put a knife up to someone's throat before I would just be like, okay, bye. Like the I hate you, I love you, I hate that, I love you. It was not my style. Pick one, in my humble opinion. And the powers, lastly in this book, I could not get behind the fact that Peyton is waltzing around the palace going unnoticed as an original, or even that they're originals in the city. Or ordinary in the city, just in general. When you have walking lie detectors or people like Kai, like there's so many powers that could prevent that they just like didn't use. Like, it was like everyone just kind of ignored the fact that they're insanely powerful. There's like powers, I don't know, it just seemed like a Jean Grey situation in a world of whatever, except everyone could take over Jean Grey. It just wouldn't happen like that. And that's the end. Let's hear yours.
Well, I need to take a second to center myself before I. All right. I hear you, and I'm going to raise you reasons why it changed my life.
Okay.
Number 1, Kai freaking Azar. That's all I'm going to say about that. Number 2, the banter. My goodness. It was so witty. It reminded me of Feyre and Rhys and the feeling that I got reading ACOTAR. Plus, the romance in this book was poetic. Like, it wasn't just the way she wrote it, the words that she used, the phrasing that she wrote it in. I'm a sucker, and she got me. It was just poetic. I'm not a writer. I can't think of all these other words like she can. For me, that's how I have to explain it. It was poetic. She has such a way with words. Peyton, I loved that she was powerful, even though the irony of this book being that she literally has no power. Like, I hear what you're saying about how there's so many different types of powers in this book, and like it's not logical to assume that no one would have been able to catch her up until this point. I don't fully disagree with that, truthfully. But I mean, if we're going to get that particular, you can critique every book when it comes to, okay, I mean, let's talk Fourth Wing and how Violet was constantly getting hurt, and you know what I mean? Like, realistically, like, she wouldn't have been able to make it, but she does. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, there's going to be things you can critique and pull apart about anything, but I like that she was a really strong FMC without it being unrealistic for her ability. Like, she was strong and resilient and had no power to back it up. It was all like her mind, and she was she used her skills, and it wasn't, I like that because, like, okay, again, in ACOTAR, for example, Feyre was like that in the beginning, kinda, but then she became the most powerful High Lady and like had all these powers like no one had ever seen, and I'm like, oh, it lost its. I still loved it. I'm not saying I didn't, but like, she as an FMC lost an appeal for me personally when that happened, because then it became less about her being able to do all this stuff and more about being able to like cop out. It's like, well, she has powers now, so now she can fly and now she can do all these things, and that's how she defeated everyone, and it less about like her just like natural ability. And so I like that Peyton has none of that, but she's just as powerful as everyone else somehow. And I will say I hate her name. I did not. I grew on me, but at first I was like, Peyton, and like,
I actually didn't hate her name.
Pay isn't even any better. Like, it's not. But I like it now. But it took me like halfway through the book to get used to it.
Can I add in a quick thing?
Sure.
They had so many nicknames that ended with just A. Pay, A, in Power.
Who else?
Powerful.
Well, we're not talking powerful. This is just powerless.
Well, this doesn't have anything really to do with it, but there's someone in the cell that Adina names him A as well, like a nickname. And I'm like, why can't we get away from the A nicknames? It's too many.
Okay, I'm just going to also, for the sake of argument here, you named 3 characters out of about 70 million that are in this book. I don't feel like
million? It was... There's maybe 12. So 3 out of 12? Reduce that fraction. That's 1.
There's way more than 12. All I'm saying. Right. And 2 of those nicknames is the exact same nickname. It wasn't, I know, like it was another
even
one.
Worse to me. Keep going though. Keep going.
It's a trilogy, Ellie. Everything will come back. Okay. I think I'm pigeonholed here and being the minority, but I loved the dynamic between both brothers wanting her. I know not everyone big fan. I loved it.
I love triangle girl, huh?
I am a love triangle girl. So that really hit for me. And I will come out and say, like, I do understand that not everyone likes that. And I understand why not everyone likes that, truthfully. But I do. And so for me, it was a big win. And I also liked Kit. Like, I obviously I liked Kai more, obviously, and I know you're supposed to, but I didn't hate Kit. So it was fun to read about both of these guys that like her and that I like, and I didn't mind that because I didn't like, I preferred Kai, but like I didn't hate reading about his brother either. I don't know. I liked it because they were both likable characters for me. I like the trope, and so it was, for me, it was very fun to read about. I loved the twist of, and this is the twist, I think, or the plot twist that everyone's talking about, twist? Of the two of them being the one to kill each other's fathers. I don't necessarily, I think the twist was that no one saw it coming that Kai was the one to kill her dad. Because the whole book, she kept saying she saw the king.
Yeah.
Like, she saw those emerald green eyes and she saw him in her house. But, I mean, in real life, our mind, if we, like, are in a traumatic scenario, our mind will fill in the gaps and misplace things. So, like, I understand why she would have thought that.
So
but
you said you did like the twist, or you didn't like the twist?
No, I did. I liked the twist that they killed each other's fathers. And here's why. It feels like there's no way they can come back from that. And I love it's good writing when the author writes a story where you feel like there's no way out. But there obviously has to be. This is book 1 in a trilogy. So I might not know where this is going, but there is going to be a way out from it. And when I can't see how that's going to happen, I get so excited to read what's next. So
I do know that about you. Mm-hmm.
I loved that because I'm like, this is so traumatic for both of them, regardless of whether Kai knew he did it or not. He did it, and Peyton knows that, but she also killed his dad. But I think both of them are justified because Kai was being ordered and didn't know what he was doing, and Peyton, her dad was trying to kill her, or his dad was trying to kill her. So I mean, like, I think they were both, and that's the thing, they're both justified in it, but it still hurt them individually. And I'm like, this is just such a good conflict because they're both so pure at the same time, but they're not. I don't know. I could talk about it forever. I just loved it. And though I liked the world building in this, I feel like it was enough to keep things interesting in the beginning without it being too chaotic and confusing. I definitely felt Hunger Games in the beginning of the book. Absolutely. It felt, I definitely got that vibe, but I felt like at a certain point, maybe like 30-40% of the way through, it became different enough for me that I wasn't constantly thinking Hunger Games. So yes, the element of that was there for me, and like I see the resemblance and the inspiration behind it for sure. But it became different enough to where it didn't feel like it was a straight copy at a certain point.
Okay.
So those are my points for
those
it.
Yours. I have counters to most every single one, but let's do that. This is not the time or place.
Yeah, let's bring in your first witness then, Ellie, and let's go ahead. First
witness comes from Goodreads. Her name is Chloe. She has a flower next to her name. I realize that they don't like always include full names on Goodreads, so that's as good of credit as I can give to someone.
So thanks, Chloe Flower.
Thanks, Chloe Flower. She says, there was so much tension. If men said the things in real life that Kai says to Peyton, we would have no need for romance books. So true. However, there was so much tension and banter to the point of becoming repetitive and literally putting me into a reading slump. And I felt like that was true for me. It took me so long. And I'm generally a slow reader, but I actually didn't want to keep picking up this book. If it weren't for Melissa's like insanely great reviews, I kept thinking it would get better. I just was like, okay, I get it. It did not give Reese and Feyre to me at all. And I don't know if I even can define the differences, but their relationship was so deep, and this one was just so like surface to me.
I see. Yeah, I see what you mean. It didn't feel quite as deep either, but you also, I think, sorry, I'll wait till you're done.
No,
keep going.
You can. That's my first one, so you can.
Oh, you're done.
You may
okay.
Cross-examine that
Here's
one.
Here's my cross-examine for that. and this is to not just that review, but this is to everyone online that has said this about anything. I get it. Okay, there's a pace for sure. But you guys, this is a trilogy. Not everything is going to happen in the first book. Like,
but things don't have to not happen. And I think it's not even the buildup. Like, I know that's what the review says, but to me, it wasn't even just the buildup. It was the repeat actions in the buildup. The knife up to the throat, that you're going to be the death of me. How many times do you have to say that before I'm like, I get it. You're into each other. Yes. Like, that's how I felt. Like, we have to be done. We have to move on.
I hear you. I think that, truthfully, I think the dagger was a little overused. I liked it, but I think if it was used slightly less, I would have liked it more. Mm-hmm. Plus, I think Kai calling her darling was overused a little bit as well. I also think I would have liked it a little bit more if he had used that word specifically a little bit less. But I think, and again, this is all just preference, I am a big fan of slow burn and emphasis on the slow. So like, all the tension buildup, it didn't bother me. It just made me more excited for whatever was to come. And there's just not really, this is all opinion. Like, there's not really any way to like base like, oh nope, that's wrong. Like,
yeah, totally.
So this is just preference, and I loved it. I do think some of the things were a little overused, I agree, but I don't know, it worked for me. I loved it. I loved the pace of this book. I loved all the tension, and I actually think the element of Kit relieved a lot of that tension, because then it kind of took the limelight off of Kai.
Kit was Peter.
He's a golden retriever. He's a golden retriever, and we all need it. Oh, that's another thing. Like, I love a good male golden retriever in a book, and I love a Kai, the morally gray. He wasn't actually that morally gray, I don't think, but that type with the dark hair kind of behind it.
It's so classic to me that, like, the golden retriever boy typically does not get the girls in the book. The morally gray guy gets the girls in the book. And so, again, this was just a really, like, common trope, which is why I said, what twist? Everything she did was a different popular trope that's being used right now, where I was like, well, we know how that's going to end. She's going to pick Kai, even though she was entertaining Kit, which bugged me a lot more, because it was very clear that she didn't want him. She wasn't even entertaining that in her mind. She was entertaining Kai in her mind. So why, like, I understand for the purpose of her mission, she was going to, like, flirt with him to find out, you know, where the tunnels were and all that, but that didn't come until later. Why were you flirting with him all the way up until that point? It just felt weird. It wasn't even a love triangle I wanted to read about. It was just weird to me.
So I disagree. She wasn't flirting with him. She just was like, he's the son of the king. I can't say no. She was friendly. She was not. He was flirting in the beginning. She was not flirting. She did not start to do anything until the resistance aspect of this came in. Plus, again, I'm going to say, it is a trilogy. This is a long game, you guys. Obviously, she's not going to end up with Kit in the beginning, but we don't know how that rejection or how any of that betrayal is going to play out in coming books. So
I'm going to squeak myself because I'm going to interrupt you. Isn't that the point, though? Because we don't know how the betrayal is going to play out, but don't we? But, like, that's the point, is that these tropes are so overused that, I mean, unless she pulls a 180 on us, the first two books have not been surprising to me at all. The tropes that she's using, specifically the one with Kit and Kai, you know she's going to end up with Kai. You know. So I feel like there's no surprise element to this. Like in the Hunger Games, when you had Gale and Peeta, everything looked like it was going to Gale. It was her love from home. And then Peeta became what she needed most. And so she, like, you know, flipped over. And that was a plot twist for me, at least. For this, I just feel like she's not going to do that to us. I feel like it's just she's going by the book of the tropes, because that's what's popular in the Bookstagram world right now. And that's
to that
on me.
To that, I will say, finish Reckless before you come at me, because you don't know how that ends. So
let me read my next witness, and then you can cross-examine that one. So this comes from Alexandra Osborne on Goodreads. The main issue with Powerless is that it was written for social media. It was written around popular tropes, even if putting in those tropes was completely out of place and forced. Now, listen, I'm not against using popular tropes or anything, but they're only effective if they come naturally and actually have a reason to be there. It felt completely unoriginal because I had read it all before.
I just like, where's the line, I guess, between including, because like I would argue that SJM's books all have the exact same popular tropes in them. And so like where's the line? Like at what point do you draw? I am not going to sit here and say, I'm glad I actually kind of resurfaced this. You touched on this earlier and I wanted to come back to it. I agree with you that their relationship is not nearly as deep as Reese and Farrah's. There was an element of that you just can't replicate. Like Sarah is a wizard when it comes to character development and wording and everything. And I'm not gonna, but I don't want to sit here and compare the two because they're individual people. They have different minds and different stories. I think Sarah does a better job at character development and plot, but I think Lauren's writing is more poetic and more beautiful. I think she has a lot more of a romantic writing style. And so I like her words better than the words that Sarah uses, but I think Sarah's stories are just deeper. So this is mood reading. It really, it's like, what are you in the mood for? And this book might not have been what you were in the mood for at the time, but to say that it's not good writing just because it uses tropes is so hypocritical because that's every book. Like every book uses multiple tropes. And I personally didn't feel I wasn't crazy about the resistance aspect of this book. I do think that like I agree with some of the negative reviews that of saying that Peyton was so like her whole thing was that she could read people and that she knew people's movements, that's how she was able to pretend to be a psychic, yet she didn't see it coming where the resistance was going to pull the stunt that they did. Like how naive. And I agree. I didn't actually love the resistance aspect of it. But I do think that like later on it's going to play a bigger role than it did in the first one. I think that was just kind of setting up for me, this is a long game. Like I think I didn't love it at first, but I think it will all tie together at the end. And I think that's just setting it up. So I think that's why I'm getting so frustrated when people are like, oh, this was stupid. This didn't make any sense. I'm like, you can't, until the series is finished, you can't say that it didn't make sense because there is a very good chance it's all going to tie back together.
Yeah. Now, haven't we learned our lesson with Sarah? Every time we're like, that makes no sense. It's like, oh, that was the whole plot of the second book.
7 books later, she brings it back at the perfect time, and you're like, that's why it was written.
Yeah,
so,
right.
I think I'm also maybe holding out hope for that, but I just think like, okay, let's say the next book comes out and it has nothing to do with any of this. I will publicly come back online and say I didn't like this because I thought it was going to come back and it didn't make any sense to include it. But we can't say that yet because we don't know what the third book is going to be about yet. And so I just think that a lot of these critical reviews are premature, and because I think a lot of the things that they're pointing out that they didn't like, other than it being like in their opinion ripoffs of other books, I think a lot of these things are not fully explained yet since we don't have the full trilogy.
Okay. So here's my last witness, and I bring to the stand Carol on Goodreads.
Carol!
Peyton is always telling herself how much she hates Kai, but never actually does anything to support those claims. Wonderful example of telling, not showing. Could not agree with this more. Personally, this is what I was saying about, like, she's kind of wishy-washy, where she's like, he's my enemy, but then, like, flirts with him. And, like, yeah, she's like, I can't help it. I'm drawn to him. But, like, the idea of, like, enemies to lovers, he was really not your enemy. He, like, the whole time she was telling herself, I hate him. But then she'll go stargaze with him. I'm like, it doesn't work.
I get that. I think I didn't see this as an enemies to lovers trope. Mm-hmm. To me, it was more of a forbidden romance.
No, it absolutely wasn't enemies to lovers. The amount of times she said, I should hate him. That's
also forbidden though.
It's both.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't. You're right. This wasn't enemies to lovers, and so that's why I didn't view it as that, because it wasn't enemies to lovers.
It was.
So
I'm saying it was.
I'm not okay. But I hear what you're saying, but like I don't care if that's how it was marketed, but it wasn't. And so if you just think about it,
It was. When you say, I hate this guy, that is your enemy. When you then kiss him the whole time, I don't know, she only kissed him once maybe, but when you're all kissy face with him, then you are going against what you are saying, which is totally understandable for a book, makes sense. But that is enemies to lovers. That is, he was her enemy, but she just never committed to the bit that he was actually her enemy, except in her mind, which gave a conflicting result of like, my actions are showing one thing, but my heart's telling me another. But like, not in a way that was, for me, enjoyable or consistent to the story, I think. It was like, I was confused. Was he actually her enemy, or was she like, yeah, I'll push it aside. I'll push it aside.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I didn't think of it like that because it really wasn't a super strong enemies to lovers trope. It felt more forbidden to me because I get like she's saying I hate him because of everything he stands for, but it was more of she's an ordinary, he's an elite, so they shouldn't be together, and he is the son of the man who killed her father, quote unquote, and she is a homeless and from the slums. They are completely separate, like, social classes. They shouldn't be together. He is flirty with all the, like, a bunch of other girls, and you know what I mean, like, I don't know, it just, to me, it gave even if it was unintentional, it gave way more forbidden romance versus enemies to lovers.
I'm not arguing that it wasn't forbidden romance. It absolutely was that too, but I think it was both in addition to many others.
No, I hear you. I'm just saying, because it didn't give a strong enemies to lovers, I just wasn't thinking, it didn't bother me that it wasn't, because in my mind I wasn't even assuming that trope was a part of it. So I didn't I was separated that from the book because it wasn't the enemy aspect of it, you're right, wasn't strong enough. Like, if we're gonna, I will stand down on that. You're right, the enemies to lovers was lost in this book. I do love a good enemy, like an enemies lovers, but like a true enemy, like where you don't know how they're gonna ever come to be on the same page about anything, let alone in love. Right. Like that chef's kiss when that turns into like an actual romance. I just didn't like, that wasn't there for me, but there were so many other parts of it that I loved, that it was easy for me to separate that trope because it really wasn't there.
Okay. Well, it is time for you to bring your witnesses to the stand.
Okay, well, my first witness is a review on Goodreads from none other than Janice. Hold on. I should have, it was a long one. There was just, okay. I absolutely love this book. I read it in 2 days. I'm eagerly searching for the next book, if there is one, but I'm guessing by the epilogue I saw that there is. That was in quotes. Or parentheses, I mean. I marvel at how well Lauren Roberts was able to hint back to small details throughout the book. For example, the marks on Kai's bedpost made by dull swords, and other simple small sentences. As a small writer myself, I am taking notes and still questioning how the plague she was able to remember such small details. As well, I quite enjoy the way she wrote. She writes in very modern yet still professional, and it makes it feel a lot easier to read and understand, and overall more enjoyable. She does a really good job at writing fighting scenes, so much so that it makes me wonder if she knows how to fight herself. It hooked me even if at certain points I felt like skimming over and ignoring it. I generally don't understand fighting, and I feel like I was able to picture most of these, and all of the events and details were very well placed. Every time Kai touched or held Pei, it made me blush. The details are so well detailed that I could imagine vividly what was happening. And lastly, and this is the main reason I threw this in here, I want to mention the beginning and the end of the book. The beginning is so suddenly in action. At first I was wondering if I had missed part of it. However, I understand now why this happened. It seems to loop with the ending. In the beginning, Pei thinks she's bleeding only to realize it's honey. In the end, Pei is most likely bleeding with a substantial amount, yet telling herself that it's just honey. And because I couldn't get enough of this book, I read, okay, whatever. But I do like the symbolism of that, how it bookends the beginning and the end of it together.
I'll give it to you. I will give it to Janice. I actually do agree with most of this. However, I am no, like, what's the word? A genius, I guess, because I can't think of a better word. When it comes to writing, people, I've seen the reviews, they're like, this writing was terrible. It was choppy, blah, blah, blah. I honestly can't tell. I think I'm in the story. If the story is making sense to me, if it's playing out in my head, it is what it is. I don't care where your commas and periods are.
Yeah.
So I will say, for me, the descriptions on the fighting, totally agree. I was picturing those fights.
Me too.
Detailed. I do agree with that. I liked that part of it. I'm a big plot girl, so it was good. I liked the fighting. And I did not put together the blood and the honey until just now. Like I recognized, oh yeah, she said something like that in the beginning, but I didn't think twice about it. Oh, that's good.
For me, I was like, yeah, this is like the beginning when I was reading
I give you that one, Janice. Give you that one.
Well, I also think too, maybe this is what it is. Again, also, I am no literary professional, so there are also probably going to be times that there are grammatical mistakes that I just wouldn't even catch because I'm just a girl. That's not my job. But I think she writes maybe not so much as like Jane Austen would from like a literary classical like perspective, but more in like how you think. And so for me, I liked it more because it helped me understand it, because I'm like, it almost felt like these were my own thoughts as I was reading it. Is that maybe choppy? Yeah, but my mind is all over the place 24/7. So it was more, this was like, how do I think, but like organized and controlled chaos. And so I think, again, for me personally, that's why I liked the way she wrote it, because it felt more like someone's inner monologue versus like a literary classical masterpiece.
I actually have more of a bone to pick with her editor. I know I said, like, I don't care where the commas and periods are placed. That's more on the style of writing, as far as, like, if you're jumping from here to your thoughts, to your thoughts, to your thoughts, not the actual grammatical situation. True. The grammar was atrocious. There was a part, like, words were misspelled, sentences were not put together correctly. There was a part where Kai started saying something, but there was no beginning quote, but there was an end quote. And I was like, actually, I noticed that. Like, I honestly had to go back. I'm like, did I read this wrong? Is he saying this out loud or in his head?
I know. I was like, this feels like an inner thought. Why is he talking still? I agree.
I don't think
that's not on her. That's
fault.
The editor.
That's the editor. And so, my goodness, I saw someone say my kingdom for an editor, and I would have to agree with that. It was pretty rough, but that's it. That is what it is. You're next.
All right.
Your next witness
comes from Goodreads as well, and it's from none other than Anna. All right, hers is long as well, so let me just skip to the parts that I liked. All right, so mostly this one review is mostly about Peyton and Kai. So Peyton, I actually love Peyton as an FMC. An FMC that I actually like. Everyone cheer, apparently. Anna doesn't generally like FMCs, so she's such a strong character, and I loved watching her develop. An ordinary girl thrown in an elite society of people who have far more power than she could ever have. She's just trying to survive by doing what she has to, by doing that she had. Okay, there's a spelling error and a grammatical error here that I missed. Essentially, she's just surviving. She's just trying to live her life. I love how she can outwit people, and because she's actually very smart. My friend and I have both been saying how we're not as strong as her because we would have already given in to Kai. Now let's move on to Kai. Or should we say Malachi? The way this man had to be swooning for him throughout the whole book. Do yourself a favor and go on Pinterest right now and look up fan art of him. It will not disappoint. We all love a dark-haired man with a tragic past. She put misunderstood Pookie, and I hate and love it at the same time, so I'm leaving it in here. My misunderstood Pookie. He's so sarcastic. I'm gonna go ahead and say that any man that's sarcastic has my whole heart. The banter was bantering the whole time. All the dancing scenes we got absolutely ate them up. Tending to each other's wounds. It wasn't just him tending to hers. No, it was both of them. And then she put a bunch of quotes. She said, the quote I'm sharing will tell you all you need to know. But the banter was freaking bantering. The dancing, all of it, tending to each other my goodness. And that's
I don't know,
from Anna.
Melissa. I just felt like it was so cheesy. And it wasn't bantering for me. And the balls, I think I did appreciate the fashion, but I have this in my closing statement, but I'll use it now. Peyton pulled a lot of, she's not like other girls. And it made me cringe a lot. It was just the constant, like, everyone else has green dresses, but I'm going to have a silver dress.
Oh my God. Okay, but
I'm
that
not like other girls. Everybody else has
book.
whatever hair, but I have silver hair because I'm not like other girls. I'm a fighter.
That's not her. She
I'm
didn't
from
pick
the
her hair color.
slums. Not yeah, well, okay, if we're actually talking writers, yes, she did pick her
Well,
hair
I'm
color.
saying Peyton. You're saying like she's walking around being like, I have
No,
silver
obviously
hair.
I'm not gonna fault the imaginary person. This is the I'm sorry, Lauren. This is the writing style of like, I don't care for the girl that's like, I'm actually just friends with the boys because I don't get along with girls. Now, obviously that's not the case here because of Dina, but it gave a lot of like I'm going to stand out from the crowd. I'm ordinary. but I'm a lowly girl. And yet I'm so much more powerful. No, don't underestimate me. I'm going to be the death of you. It was just, is that harsh? Should I squeak myself?
I don't think we read the same book because outside of she picked silver because of her hair and because green wasn't mandatory, but everything else, Adina took creative liberties in making her dresses. So Peyton's not over here being like, make me different. She did pick silver but she also didn't give herself the name the Silver Savior. Everyone started calling her that, so she's just playing into it.
Yeah, I never said
and
Silver
she
Savior.
never once was walking around saying, I'm just so, I mean, she was different, but she wasn't walking around being like, I'm just like one of the guys.
It's the way she was written. It was like, you can just be a girl's girl, or you can be like, oh, I'm just not like them. She was a girl's girl.
Adina was her best friend.
Yeah, with the one exception. I don't know. To me, she really gave off the vibe of like, I'm just not like the other girls. And that was part of my closing statement, but that's where I'll end with this cross-examine. Do you have another one?
Yeah, I have one more. I like wholeheartedly disagree that she gave off those vibes. I think it's a little bit of like a given based on just like fantasy. I mean, we can talk, Feyre kind of gave those vibes that, you know what I mean? And too, like, it just kind of is natural when you have a main character, they have to be different. But I disagree that her character gave off those vibes.
Well, number one, I really don't. I don't stand behind a lot of FMCs because I think that they are a little bit cringy. But like, L.A.M.E never gave off that vibe to me. Even though she was a lot of that, it just was the way it was written wasn't like all eyes on me.
Aelin didn't, but Selena did.
Perhaps. Maybe it's just I don't like this book, and so I'm just trying to...
That's what it is.
Anyways, your third, please.
All right, so this one actually comes from Reddit, and it's from Necromancer Girl. The only thing I didn't like about this book was how many times it had the word tank, and I thought that was funny because I did not once think that. I don't ever remember that word being used, but Necromancer Girl seemed to think that it was overused. I didn't realize the book was hyped. I had just saw that it was a new on Cloud library, so I went ahead with zero expectations and had a great time. As a fan of Red Queen, Shatter Me, and The Hunger Games, I didn't have any issues with borrowing some ideas, especially since those stories didn't invent trials, dystopias, or severe wealth inequality, or characters with subhuman abilities. Also theft, meet cutes, or love triangles with two brothers. I said that choppy, but she's essentially saying those books didn't create those either. I actually really like this book. I can't say if it's actually good or if it just has all the tropes and vibes I gravitate to in a book, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. Books can just be entertaining. I don't need them to be life-changing and life-changingly meaningful. Mm-hmm. And that is ultimately where this lands. I think people are critiquing this book. Kind of, yeah. I just I don't think people are judging this book like against the Iliad. Like, books aren't
not.
I feel like with the level of scrutiny they're giving it,
people are holding this up to the Bible and it is not comparing.
But I'm just saying, like, everyone's saying all these different things. Every single critique that someone has said about this book could be said about another book as well. I'm just like,
But it
there's
wasn't
nothing.
because those books were more entertaining than this one.
But that's what I'm saying. I disagree. I was thoroughly entertained. It's everyone's
Yeah.
opinion.
Here's the thing, when it comes down to it, guys, I'm a little bit uncomfortable because I generally don't like to yuck people's yums. But this is what we have to do in order to entertain you all for the podcast. No, I'm kidding. But I do like that we're having this argument. But in real life, if you were to be like, I love this book, I'd been like, I love that for you. And I would say nothing else.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just want everyone to know this isn't my personality. I'm not trying to be like, Melissa, this is a horrible book and you have terrible taste. But for me personally, not my favorite. I can totally see the entertainment value of it, though. I think that because it hits those tropes, a lot of people are into those tropes. For me, it was, and this was my theory. This actually is a little bit also part of my closing. It wasn't actually. This is part of my cross-examination, and this fits here. I have a theory, and this is it. Fantasy-wise, I wonder if Melissa was in more of a slump with fantasy and needed a really good one after being in a rut, as opposed to me. I was coming off of a really good fantasy, and so this brought me down a little bit. Do you feel like you might have been in that position?
I'm trying to remember what I read right before Powerless to confirm or deny. I think that there might have been a little bit of an element of that. You know what I truly think? I think I loved the story, like, don't get me wrong, but my favorite part of this was Kai and Peyton and like their brooding romance.
You're a romance person.
Well, yeah, what I was going to say is I think Lauren should write a romance book. Maybe not fantasy, and I think maybe people would like it more because this wasn't
good point.
I didn't like this book for fantasy. Like, this wasn't, I liked this because of, like, at the end of the day, and I mean, maybe we can just jump into closing arguments, but like, I liked this book for the romance. I wasn't critiquing it based on all these other things because truthfully, I didn't care about the other things. The main reason I was reading about it was for Peyton and Kai, and I loved the way she wrote them. I loved the banter between them. And so that is why I loved this book. So I'm wondering if maybe she took a stab at just doing a romance book, if people would have less issues with it, because I think
think they would. I think a lot of you grabbed the fantasy audience, and they were like, "This ain't it." But if you had grabbed the romance audience, Lauren wrote romance really well, especially using these tropes.
That's I ride the line between both. I love fantasy, I absolutely do, and I revel in the minds of these geniuses that are able to write these plots and stories and suck me in. But I also appreciate a good romance. Like, so I think I kind of fall in the middle, which is maybe why, and I think a lot of the people that like these books either are romance readers or also fall in the middle. If you're hard on fantasy, this isn't going to be for you.
Well, and so here's where I think I went wrong is I came off of Mistborn, which is Brandon Sanderson, next to zero romance, but he is known for the plot. And personally, in my own life, I'm a big plot reader. I like romance. Yeah. I would prefer a book had it, but I don't want the book to be centered around the romance. And I think that that's what this was. And so the romance drove the story, where I would have honestly liked to have read more about the powers and like plot twists with those. Like, oh, maybe she had a power she didn't know about, things like that. Yeah. So for me, because I'm not a big romance reader, this fell short. And I think you loved it so much because it was driven by romance. And that 100%. Is the closing statement.
It is. I mean, that's essentially what I was saying. If you want, we can read our actual closing statements that we wrote, but like,
go ahead.
You go first because you started all the other
I don't really
first.
have one other than my closing argument, and I just said this was going to be free game for you to, like, you can talk over me, you can jump in. I said this pulled a lot of she's not like other girl vibes. It made me cringe a lot. The fact that she had a chance against the girl who can move things with her actual mind, no way. That's not real. That's absolute baloney.
Yes, because if you can distract her, you have it.
No.
You said this was free game. Why are you doing this to me?
I just need you to know that you're so wrong. This book was written for book talk based on the use of all the popular tropes, like I said, but let's read them, shall we? I listed them. Enemies to lovers, forced proximity, love triangle, forbidden love, the chosen one, second chance love, and who did this to you? Amongst others I probably missed. That's at least 7 That's too many. You're just pushing him in.
The chosen one wasn't a part of this.
Yes, it was. The Silver Savior. She's chosen. She's the one who's going to bring the ordinaries. The fact that she was the missing key to the rebellion to get them in and to get them all out. She's picked. Mm-hmm.
I guess. The Silver Savior aspect of that to me was not chosen one. That was just she saved, like, had happened to come across him in the street and save him, and then everyone started calling her that. Outside of that, the Silver Savior aspect,
one might say everyone else
chose her. No, they didn't choose her. They just named her. Anyways, but the rebellion aspect of it, you're right. They pulled her in for a reason. She was because of her positioning. I see that. It feels a little bit like a loose inclusion of the trope, but I let it. I agree. I'll let it stand. Here's my closing statement. Go
ahead.
Why does one read a book? Why, yes, you're right, Ellie. It's
plot.
For the feeling you get while reading. It's for characters who come to life in your head and feel real. And this book gave me all of that and then some. Is it perfect? No. Is any book perfect? Is any book perfect? No.
No.
Stop it. Let's reference SJM's excessive use of the term watery bowels and House of Flame and Shadow as a whole. People make mistakes and people aren't perfect.
Good point.
Lauren wrote this book when she was only 20. 20! It's her first book ever, and while you can absolutely tell that some concepts were influenced by other books, what isn't nowadays? And this is a plug for a plagiarism hot goss episode. Go back and listen to that if you haven't. The characters felt different enough for me to separate this story from others, and after really diving into it. I, personally, also love that she wrote this book as a trope-based story, mostly because it included a lot and all of my favorite tropes.
Yeah.
I am the book talk audience that she was writing for. And lastly, I'll close with this. Even a majority of the reviews I read talking about how they didn't like this book still admitted that they enjoyed the banter between Kai and Peyton. Lauren sure does know how to write romance. And my final thought is this. Kai freaking Azar, thank you.
Well done. Well, here you have it, everybody. So let us know. I'm sure we'll post shorts so you can let us know what side you stand on. What I don't want to hear at this current point in time is how much of this book you think was taken from others, because I think that we're going to do an episode solely on that, and not really give opinions, but just lay out the facts of that as well. So, yep.
But yeah, hope you guys liked it. Please let us know. You are the jury and the judge in this case. Let us, Ellie v. Melissa, Powerless. Who do you think convinced you one way or the other? And who overall is just more awesome? I'm just kidding. Yeah, I was hoping you would do that.
You need one of these because it felt very one-sided.
I was just about to say, I literally, as soon as we're done with this, we'll be ordering my own gavel for next time.
It's called the Pupperade Hydration Squeaky Toy for dogs.
I'm getting a real squeaky gavel that I can bang on the armchair.
Send me the link then. I want to get a gavel.
Yes.
All right. Well, guys, have a great week. Catch us on Wednesday for Tandem Fandom. Bye.
Bye. Dreaming when I feel the way you want me. Fire me tight. There's a war in my mind. Reverence in your dangerous when we touch. You could undo me. This is my reckoning.